Buying property is complex and usually stressful. There are so many things to take into consideration during the buying process, and then once settlement occurs, there is another whole basket of considerations to be made. I recently purchased a property with my partner, and what we tried to do before settlement went through was to come up with a list of everything that we would need to check so that post-settlement we could go away and do everything we needed to do without having to stress and actually figure out what we needed to do. And this list came in really handy. There were a lot of useful things on it, and today I thought I might share it with you. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, I am going over tips and tricks that new homeowners should be aware of. I have actually done everything on the list that I'm about to go through, and doing these things has definitely helped reduce stress. It has helped make the place feel more like a home, and overall it has had a positive impact on the purchasing experience. With that being said, let's get straight into it. First up, once you make a purchase, stop looking at real estate websites. You've done it, you've made the purchase, you've done the hard work. There really isn't much more of a need to compare what you've bought to what else is available. For 2 years straight, I spent my weekends looking at house opens, going to inspections and auctions trying to purchase a property. It was a lengthy process. The time spent doing these activities definitely did stack up, and I remember having a conversation with one of my friends who had recently purchased a place while I and my partner were still looking to try and buy somewhere. I was hanging out with him in his garage of his newly purchased place, and I remember him saying something along the lines of, "I'm so glad that I'm able to dedicate time towards activities that I actually want to do instead of having to look at open house inspections and go to auctions and try and find a place to buy." This really stuck with me because during the purchasing process, I got caught up and definitely put off a lot of things that I was wanting to do and substituted it with looking at houses almost every single weekend. Now, I probably went overboard and went a little bit above and beyond what most people would. I'm speculating. I don't actually know that. There might have been people that are way more into it than I am, and I just wanted to put it out there that once you have made a purchase, take a break. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you like looking at houses on realestate.com, if that's a hobby, I think you can call it a hobby, power to you, have fun. But if you're someone who's a bit burnt out and you just want to enjoy this experience, I highly recommend getting off those websites for a period of time. Okay, let's set that aside and move into the more important things to do and understand once you have purchased a place. The first and probably one of the most important being know where your mains shut-off valves are. I'm talking about your water mains and your gas mains and your main switch for your electricity. Know where they are, know how they work. It's also worthwhile testing them as well. As someone who, like I said, has just purchased a new property, I decided to do this, and what I found was that my water valve was a little bit old. It's an older style valve, and it actually requires a wrench to be able to turn it because it's really, really stiff. So in the event of a pipe bursting in my house and water going everywhere, I would be in trouble if I wasn't aware that I wouldn't be able to do it with my hand, and I actually need a tool to do that. Be aware of how they work and make sure you've tested them to make sure that if there's anything else that's going to be needed to do that job, you have what you need close by. An extension to this is to know where any irrigation on the property is. I know people who have irrigation which is underground, and if they're not careful or they weren't aware of its existence, they could potentially damage it when they're doing work around the house. Irrigation can be expensive. It can be something that can cause problems if it's not functioning properly. Be aware of where it is. Something to definitely take into consideration. Another really important thing to make sure you're doing is preventative maintenance. Do not put it off, you will regret it in the future. And some of the things off the top of my head that you might not think of that are probably worth considering doing would be to snake your drains, clean your gutters, and to get up in your crawl space, being your roof, have a crawl around and make sure everything is intact. Definitely check your lights, your taps, your blinds, make sure they are all working, and then your fixed appliances, things like a range hood, a dishwasher, maybe an oven, make sure they are all working. One that I would bet money on that people don't do is clean their air conditioner or have it serviced. This is something that doesn't need to be done too often, but it's something that should be routinely done because air conditioners are really expensive. I paid about $5,000 for the one I installed in my new property because the old one was not clean, was not serviced, and ended up not working, which was a big bummer. I would suggest spending some time walking around the inside of the house looking for any signs of water damage or any leaks, and then do the same thing outside when it's raining to check if your gutters are leaking or if your drains are working as they should be, if they're draining water correctly. You really don't want to leave these types of problems for too long because then they become bigger problems and then they become expensive problems. Another thing that I know a lot of people do not consider doing is changing their locks. Personally, I changed every lock in the house day one for 2 reasons. Number one was that the previous owners we bought the place from had like 40 different keys for every single door and padlock in the entire house, which was incredibly frustrating and confusing, especially because they didn't label any of them. Now, having rekeyed everything, one key makes everything so much simpler. And number two is for security reasons. My possessions are valuable. I value my possessions. I don't want them to get stolen. If the previous owner had kept a key, which I'm not suggesting they did or ever would, but you never know, it just puts my mind at ease knowing my things are locked away safely with a key that only I have and not others. A simple idea, and lots of people recommend it online. I actually have done it with my previous 2 houses, and I'm very happy that I took the time to do that. Moving on, this one is a little bit more technical, and I find a lot of value in doing it. Set up an email, or set up at least a folder structure within one of your personal emails for all of your house related information that is going to be sent to you over however long you have that property. If it's 30 years, you want to be able to collate that information somewhere. You don't want to have to file it away with all of your other receipts and invoices and bills and everything that's going to come along with it, because it's going to be very hard to navigate through. I've done this for both of my properties. I set it up for my bills. I set it up for my tenants. If I'm renting a property out, I set it up for any invoices, anything that I need to claim for tax, any information about the property that was from the banks, statements, all of that type of information goes into those emails, and they stay there and they're filed away ready for a rainy day if I ever need to dig them up quickly. Super useful tip. The physical way to do this would be to get a couple of folders and actually label them and then stick everything paperworky into these folders. I have 2 properties, so I have 2 folders. It's pretty simple. It's not overly complicated. Everything goes into them. And then when I go to do my taxes, I literally take the folder with me. And when they say, what's going on with your property? What have you got to claim? I pull up my spreadsheet, I go through it, and then I provide my accountant with those receipts, and I walk out of there in about 15 minutes because I have everything ready to go. And if I ever get audited or the tax man comes crawling, come on, bring it on. I've got it all in the folder, ready to go. A small one worth considering doing is to replace your toilet seats or toilet seat if you only have 1 toilet in the house. I did this in my current purchase and my previous purchase as well. They are not overly expensive, and it can freshen the place up a little bit and make you feel a little bit nicer when you're going to the bathroom. My previous tenants would have been shitting in those toilets for over 10 years, and that's kind of gross. So I thought, why not spruce things up a bit and put a new toilet seat in. Now that is a consolidated list of all of the things I did to my most recent purchase and my previous purchase as well. And any purchases I make in the future, I'll continue to do the same thing. I would highly recommend considering doing them yourself. The thing to understand here is that they are not going to necessarily add monetary value to your property, but they are going to definitely put your mind at ease and help you organize yourself in a way that makes the whole process of maintaining a property easy. Other considerations worth mentioning, but aren't things that I necessarily did, was to get a building and pest inspection or to get a termite inspection at the very least. I actually did get someone to come out and check, but they seemed to think it was all good and I didn't need a treatment. What you need to understand here is that there are different reasons as to why you would get one of these. As someone who's potentially going to knock this house down in the future, I didn't really see the value. However, someone who's bought a more modern home or a nicer home, it's probably worth looking for any defects, any signs of rodents or animals living in the roof, for example, any types of damage. They are generally worth the money sink because you will get a service out of it where a set of eyes, which are they're experts apparently, and I have had good experiences with my building and pest inspections on my previous property, and a lot of my friends who have used them as well have had good experiences also. Definitely something to consider getting. I'm not really going to say any more about it. It's something that you have to weigh up your options and figure out if it's right for the type of purchase you're making. Another consideration definitely worth understanding or knowing is where any asbestos is in the house if you're purchasing an older style home. Lots of old style homes used asbestos for outside sheeting of the eaves and specific parts of sheds and things like that. Know if you have asbestos on the house, and if you're planning to do any work, make sure you tell tradies, you tell anyone who comes and does work on your property that it is there. Asbestos is a pain in the ass, but it is something that is quite dangerous if it's disturbed. So A, don't disturb it if you can avoid it, and B, make sure that anyone who's going to be working around it is aware of its existence. Something I missed, which definitely should be in the list as well, is to put a note in your phone the day of settlement to call your bank every 3 months. So set a 3-month reminder on your digital calendar, which I hope you're using, to call your bank and negotiate your interest rate. If you have a mortgage, I assume most people have mortgages these days, so it's going to be applicable to you. Make sure you do this. I have successfully negotiated my rate down significantly since the beginning of my mortgage, and now my new mortgage, I'm going to do the exact same thing over and over and over forever, because there's no harm in asking, and if they're able to drop the rate, it just means more money in my pocket at the end of the day. It's a 15-minute phone call. I've talked about it in other videos. I think that it is an activity worth doing. Now, having reached the end of the video, I've saved the best for last. So hopefully you've stuck around this long and you're about to get the hidden gem of what to do when you purchase a new property and settlement goes through and you get the keys. What you do, if you purchased it by yourself or with a partner, it doesn't matter. You go hunting for the cash or the safe. I'm sure that if you're buying an older style home, you're going to find things, and who knows what you're going to find. There are lots of different places that people hide cash. I personally don't have any cash on me, I have to say it. I don't like cash, but old people definitely do. Where should you be looking? In the roof, in the wall cavities, behind anything that can be pulled up, I guess, without damaging the property. Be careful of that. Any types of pits in the garage, any types of holes in the shed or in the backyard that just don't look right. Have a hunt around, you never know what you're gonna find. And that's pretty much it for today's video. For me, this list was really useful, and it's something that I will use with any property I purchase ever. I highly recommend you do the same for a lot of the items on the list, especially the organization ones. With that being said, if you did enjoy today's video, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. It really does go a long way for the channel. I really do appreciate the support, and it does not go unnoticed. And with that being said, I will leave you there. Have a good day, have a good week, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.